Hello everybody, hope you're having a wonderful day. This is just a quick summary of some of the improvements and features that we have introduced in the last couple of months. Now I will be going deeper into each one of these features in future videos, but for now, let's go. Now the first thing I can't actually show you, but you might have noticed that the app has been working a lot faster. Actually, 10 times faster in some cases. And we're still working on improvements, so you can expect it to work even faster in the future. But now let's log into our account. Now from the project screen, if we hover over one of our projects and go into the settings of the project, we can now use SVG files as a favicon. Now this is just a little improvement, but I know some of you really wanted this, so here you go. Now in the SEO tab, we can now enter our Google site verification over here. We can also add robot text here, robots text, close, and we can enable Sitemap. This is a very recent thing we added here. Now let's go back to the projects tab again, and here, users, here you can invite the user. Now you can also choose whether you want the user to be the owner, administrator, and designer, where the user can now only design and develop projects as well as edit and publish them, or a content manager that can only edit and publish content, and we can choose the project that this content manager will have access to. All right, let's close this up. And now we can also switch our accounts easily from here. We can also go to projects and also do it from here. Now let's go ahead and do that. Switch account. I'm going to use this other account. This is a personal account, and this is a separate account where I have separate users, plan and billing, account settings, etc., etc. Now let's go back to my pro account here. Oh, of course, we can add new accounts easily from here. Again, let's go back to the pro account. Now let's hover over here, open this editor, and let's see what we have here. Now the first thing, let's go to the forms. Now if you click form, you will have the regular form as default. It's a new form. I'm gonna click it here, go to settings, and now, like I said, by default we have regular form and also the methods post, get, patch, and delete. There we go. Now let's scroll up and see what we have here. Here we have some testimonials that are connected to the testimonial database I have in my databases here. And now we can edit the database straight from the canvas here. So let's go ahead and click this. You see testimonials database, name field. I'm going to click it again to edit. And let's go ahead and delete this S. So instead of John Rollings, we have John Rolling. There we go. Now let's go to the database. Of course, remember we need to have it saved here first. Database is here. Here we have users. Please remember this for the future. We have two users, John and Marcin. Okay. And they have images here, but we're not going to look at them right now because right now we're talking about the testimonials, right? So let's go to the testimonials. And here we see John Rolling without the S. Now, since we're in our database area, let's go to the blog database I created. And here I created one entry. It has the ID 1, of course. And now let's go into this entry, open. Here I have the name, the slug, which is automatically created from the name, and we can edit the slug here. And now if we use a rich text field, we can use this plus button and easily add headings, lists, blocks, and media types. And if we double click a part of the text here, we can highlight it, and we also have access to this menu here. So this is also something new we have added. Now, remember this slug here. Of course, this is the last part of the URL. If you're using a dynamic database like this one and it's a blog post and you create a page with that blog post, this will be the last part of that URL if you set it up so. Now we can, instead of using this slug here, we can use the ID here, this ID number 1. So let's go to pages to see how that works. I created a dynamic page and I called it blog. And the root for it is blog. That's what I named it. So you'll see the domain. If you have a custom one, you will use your custom one here instead of this one. Then you'll have the root, blog, and then the slug, right? And now you can actually change it to ID. So instead of the slug from the blog post, right, if that one is published, you will see the ID from the blog post, which is 1. All right, that's that. Let's go back into the canvas and see what else we have here. We can now select a div, and then from the drop-down menu, by right-clicking either here or in the layers menu, you can now convert the div to a link block. And let's do that. There we go. Now it's a link block. And now if we go to settings, we have access to the linking over here. Now another thing we can do, another feature, if we go to the top left drop down, you can go to editor mode. And this is what your editors will see, right? The ones that can only edit your content without having access to the design. They'll be able to see the database and the pages, but they will only be able to edit the text in the canvas. So if they click on something, they can only edit this text, delete it, add it, and add some simple formatting over here. Now let's go back to designer mode. There we go. And see what else we have here. Let's go to the drop-down menu here. And now you can import HTML. And this works with Tailwind CSS. So you can import some HTML here. Let's cancel. But also, if you choose a part of your project or from the body, or just right-click one of these elements, you can now also export this. So you can, for example, export this and then import it to another project, for example, if you don't like to do that. So if you click export, you'll have the HTML here, and you can copy it to your clipboard, close it, and then import it to another project. Now, another thing we introduced is the advanced panel. If we scroll in the designer panel here, at the very bottom, you see all the changes you did here. You can now see them in this advanced panel here. And if you change color, for example, let's go ahead and change this to orange. You can now see it over here. And if you delete it, it will go back to how it was in the past. Now let's scroll down, and here I added a div with the background color of orange and an image, and we need that because if we click one of these images, we now in the effects drop down have mix blend mode over here. It's just called blend mode in the panel. And if you use the drop down or drop up, you can change the color. This is hue. I'll just go really quickly so you see how these things change here. And like I said, you need to have that color background because it blends with the image, darkened, and of course you can go to normal where you don't see any changes at all. Now the last thing I have for you today is from the drop down here, let's go to the account page. And for this to work, you need to have user authentication enabled in the settings over here, because then you also have the reset password page, the new password page, sign up and welcome. But I created an accounts page and I connected it to the user database that I have over here, where I showed you in the beginning there was John and Marcin, and each one of them had images, right? And on this dynamic page, I connected it to that database. I created a placeholder image, some text and header here, and some text over here. Now if I click this header and go to settings, I can of course use the logged in user drop down and choose name. And this is the name of the logged in user will appear here. And now I can do the same thing with the images. Data binding, key, logged in user, photo, and there we go. Now, depending on the user that is logged in, that specific user will see his or her name and his or her image over here. Now, I can't really preview that right now because what I would need to do is actually log in using the login page I just showed you from this drop down here. And the user would need to log in, or I would need to log in as that user. Then I would need to click here, None, click Marcin, and click Preview. And that's how the user would see it. Like I said, I logged into my user. I went to the URL of my project /login, logged in with that user and the password and the login name, etc., etc. And this is how it works. And this is how you can see it. And that's all I've got for you today. But like I said, these are just the main features and main improvements, not all of them. And I will be going deeper into each one of these in future videos. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next tutorial.